More Uta videos. So a couple of months ago, I went and did a Van Gogh or saw a Van Gogh exhibit. This is the shirt that I got there, Starry Nights. Just my favorite Van Gogh painting. Not that I don't like. There's another version of Starry Nights, and then there's all the sunflowers and all the other flowers and everything. And I love those too. But Starry Night. So Monday's video was about Uta and her life. This one is going to be specifically about her devil fruit. The Uta Uta no Mi, or the Sing Sing fruit, or the Song Song fruit, depending on which way you want to put it. Those are the setup for Uta's devil fruit. It is a paramecia type. Given the fact that certain events that happen that we kind of see that are probably close to canon, I would say that the devil fruit itself is probably canon, although some of the things that it can do in regards to like top Musica are not canon. But I'll go over that when I get to it. So basically, the basic power of the fruit is that the user of it, when they sing, which this is one of the devil fruits that you probably want to make sure that it's eaten by someone that can actually sing. So like Luffy having this devil fruit, because not a lot of people are going to want to listen to Luffy sing. Probably not so much. But Uta having it makes perfect sense. She is an amazing singer. Brooke having the devil fruit also would probably have been a good setup in that way too, since Brooke is a very good singer. That probably would have gone well. There's other people in One Piece that are actually pretty good singers from what we understand. I would point Karina out from film Gold. She's a pretty good singer. Same thing with, actually, in all honesty, so is Gil Tesoro. They're both good singers in the movie. So they would probably have done okay with the Uta Uta no Mi in that regard. And being able to like get people to actually listen to them sing and everything and use their power that way. I was trying to think if there was anybody else in One Piece that we've seen so far that are like actual singers. Not that I can think of off the top of my head, because it's not like we see the Straw Hats go out and do karaoke or anything like that, or it's not like we've seen other characters go out and like sing karaoke or anything like that, or have like a singing competition or something like that. But yeah, the Uta Uta no Mi is designed to be able to use by someone who is a very good singer, same like the Op Op no Mi Law's fruit is very good to be used by a doctor, and other variations like that. That there is a perfect match for this fruit. And what it does is when the user sings, when they use their power, because just like any devil fruit, they can choose to either use their power or not use their power when they sing. If they sing and activate their power, anybody that hears them singing is teleported, their consciousness or their soul is teleported into this virtual space. And they do not notice that this happens. Or generally speaking, unless they are aware of what her power does, they don't usually tend to notice that this has happened. If they are, they are able to then be in this world that is designed by Uta. The way that we see her use this in the movie is, of course, at the beginning of her concert when she starts singing New Genesis. We see it go from this very foggy, cloudy setup for where everybody's waiting for the concert to start to just everything bursts into vibrant color, and it goes from this cloudy, overcast day into this beautiful, sunny, bright blue skies, color everywhere. And we see the way that works. And then, of course, when we cut back and forth in the movie to where we see where everybody is in the virtual world, where everything is bright and sunny and happy looking, and then we cut into the real world where we actually see them all asleep, it's still cloudy and rainy and everything outside. So we see that how it shifts there. And considering what you would probably say about what we see to do within her dimension, within her virtual space, as it's explained, you would probably think that she's rather OP there, and I will get to that. But I did want to point out a few things that are like either taglines from the movie or things that they have in the promotional art for it, or something like that. There's her voice will bring forth eternal happiness or eternal imprisonment. That's one of the things that we see in one of the teaser trailers for it, way back when the teaser trailers were first coming out, and we get some of the sketch art for Uta. And then there's also the An almighty voice with fiery red locks is another one that was on one of the original sketch posters that we got for Film Red back when it was first announced and everything. And we see those, and as I said, Uta having the Uta Uta no Mi is the best possible setup for her to have it. She is this amazing singer with this amazing potential, and regardless of the reason why, she was trained in how to do all of this amazing singing and everything on Elysia by Gordon. Context for how she's on the island in the first place, that I went more over in the other video, in the Film Red review and in the Uta overall discussion. And we have that. But she is, the way that she sings is able to use her devil fruit to the maximum power. We have the strength of the devil fruit that, of course, teleports people into this unconscious reality. Essentially, their spirits, their souls, whatever you want to put it, get teleported into this reality where Uta is able to manipulate their reality. Uta world, as it's kind of referred to as well. Their physical body is just asleep wherever, and when Uta is able to, if Uta finds it necessary, because during this time frame when she has people in the virtual world and when she has them in the real world, her consciousness kind of seems to be split. And the fact that she is out in the real world and she's still able to interact with people out in the real world, we see this in the movie where she actually is able to interact with, Fujitora and Kizuru when they show up. With all the Marines and everything, she's able to interact with them and everything while still simultaneously being in the virtual world and having her, leading like little army of her fans to go and like hunt down the pirates that are on the island. Luffy, her former, her childhood best friend. We see that. And we also see these other dichotomy moments where we see her out in the real world where she is able to like manipulate the bodies of the people who were asleep, of the people that she's put into the virtual world. She can manipulate their bodies because she has a bunch of the civilians attack the Marines, not like physically attack them and like start like hurting them, but like to get them to take off, because the Marines end up all having these, headphones on that are supposed to be like noise canceling headphones to filter out Uta's ears. Definitely designed by the SSG. And we see the civilians like take off the headsets from them so that way, they then fall asleep. The Marines then fall asleep. Fujitora is able to get away with this, and same thing with Kizuru, same thing with a couple of the other vice admirals that we see there as well. We also see, of course, Fujitora does not want to actually hurt the civilians. Admittedly, he controls gravity, so he could just either, force them down on the ground so they're like pinned to the ground, or like force them up so they float and kind of push them away from him. He could do that, but he doesn't. So we see that. We also see that, of course, we find out that through the course of the movie that as long as Uta is awake, the virtual world is, up and running at full capacity, and the souls are trapped there. They can't leave. And while Uta can affect things that happen in her virtual world, for example, during the I'm Invincible song, which is her second song in the movie, when she has that armor that she makes, we see her start using her power against, Brule and Oven and the jellyfish pirates. We see her, she says she turns them into a song. And basically what ends up happening is, of course, she, goes into this armored form that she has, this battle form that she has with a giant spear and the crown and the cape and everything. And she is able to, kind of basically bounce people's attacks kind of back at them to a degree, like what she does with Brule and Oven and stuff like that. And yeah, the Straw Hats are there and they kind of help and everything, but she uses her power within this world to then basically form, musical bars, and then it wraps around them. It wraps around, Brule and Oven and their lackeys, and the jellyfish pirates wraps around them, and then it turns them into a song. And it pins them up as like where the musical notes would be on these bars of music, which is kind of funny. And I thought that was really a fun way of using her power, because within her world, while she is not quite omnipresent, she has a large amount of influence of what's going on in that world. She, however, cannot affect someone's will in that world. Like, we still see that hockey works in that world because it is still an extension of your will, because we see Luffy and Zoro and Sanji use, their observation hockey. We see, people use observation hockey. We see people use, armament hockey and conquerors hockey as well. Well, I was trying to think, do we see Luffy use his conquerors hockey in the movie? I think we see him use it a little bit during the battle at the end, but generally he's not using it in the movie because he's not fighting against someone that he wants to use his conquerors hockey against. But we see Zoro use his conquerors hockey as well, in the virtual world. And we see all of this. And so pretty much anything that you can do in the real world, you can also do in the virtual world. We see Luffy use his devil fruit powers. We see anybody that has devil fruit powers using them, as much as they need to and everything. That does not seem to be limited. But what does seem to be something that Uta can affect is weaknesses. She seems to be able to amplify someone's weakness, and the fact that at one point in time when Luffy is on stage trying to get to Uta, after it's, pirates and everything, and Uta's made her stand against pirates and everything, Luffy shows up on stage, and we have a bunch of the fans show up, and they throw, water on Luffy. And, this is probably, seawater or whatever, because they're on an island that has, a bunch of water in the, center of the island area where the performance is going on, so there's water, so that's not surprising. But we see Luffy get very weakened instantly when this happens. And it's no, just because Luffy gets water on him, that does not mean that he should become instantly that much weaker. And in the context, what it basically implies is that Uta can, up the effect of how effective this water is going to be against Luffy. You throw water on Crocodile and he's going to get a lot weaker just because he's the Sand Logia. That's implied. But with Luffy, we've seen Luffy get wet before. He doused himself in water when he fought Crocodile. So that shouldn't have been an issue where he gets a bunch of seawater thrown on him. Yeah, it's seawater, but still. He's not submerged in it. He's not up to his waist in seawater. Therefore, it should not have this type of an effect on him. And, it's that shouldn't be the case. And we see that happen. So it's kind of implied that Uta can up that power. She can make them, increase the, how weak they would be to this stuff. She can't just outright make it that you get splashed with a little bit of seawater or a bucket of seawater and you're going to be on the floor oh my God, I can't move. I've been doused with seawater. It's not that effect. It's not like she can make it as strong as sea stone or anything like that, but she can up that power a little bit. Also, we see within this world, Uta has the ability to just create constructs. We see her make when she's singing New Genesis, and then when she's also singing I'm Invincible, we see her making all of this stuff that flies out and turns into something that each of the people can have. She makes food so that there's some unlimited amount of food there. She makes a stuffed animal for one of the little girls. She makes probably toys for other kids that are there. She makes booze for Zoro, which makes him happy. We see a bunch of that, and it's not she can make all of this stuff appear because within her virtual world, she can create all of this stuff. And that's kind of where her thought process is of if I bring as many people as possible into this virtual world, I can give them anything that they need. Water, food, shelter, toys, clothes, whatever. I can give that to them and it's not a problem. We also see that she is able to physically also manipulate other things around her as well. She can manipulate we see her manipulate not just her own clothes, because we see her, her costume shifts here and there throughout the course of the movie. Also, at various points, she gets these, wings on her back that are somewhat reminiscent of Skypiea wings and everything in regards to the, Skypieans and the Bjerkins and the, the Shandorians and everything. We see those reminiscent wings there, but they're a lot bigger. But those are things that are formed by her powers, not by a costume. They're not part of her costume out in the real world. She probably could have them be part of her costume out in the real world, but in the context of the movie, they are just her costumes, part of her costumes within her, Uta world. And she is able to then, she also, we see her make other constructs. I think we see her make, we see her make a cage at one point in time that she's using as a representation when she's singing. We see her make, she makes like a little, I don't know what it was. I think at one point when they're like heading off, when she, after she's like pinned the Straw Hats up the same way that she pinned up, Brulee and Oven and stuff onto the musical notes, onto the musical bars and everything, we see that she, has like a bunch of her fans following her and everything as they're going to go try to track down Luffy and get him so she can pin him up as well. And she is, carrying, she ends up making like, I don't know, it looks like just like a giant calliope or something like that, like a giant, like, musical thing that would just play a whole bunch of different songs on and everything as they're like going, and that's like what she's leading them with or something like that. There's not an image I can find of it, but that seems to be something that she can make. As I said, she can make almost anything that she needs to make. She also is able to manipulate other people's appearances, and the fact that during the big battle that happens between Uta and, Uta with like top Musica coming out, but with the rest of the Straw Hats and everything, and like Brulee and Oven and Kobe and Helmeppo and Bluno. It's like, I know his name. With all of them fighting against Uta in her dream world, in her Uta world, she changes all of their appearance, and that's where we get them going from like their fun, more casual concert-looking appearances into their black, more badass looking appearances, and Brooke gets, very spiky hair and everything. And we see that transformation because the context of it in the movie is that she's like, pirates shouldn't look friendly because they're not friendly. They're not our friends. They should look scary. Admittedly, she doesn't make them look scary. She just makes them look a lot more badass. But that's her intention, is to make them, put them in black, because black is typically what's used to denote that someone is bad in those cases, and darker colors and stuff like that. More threatening, the big pirate hats and everything. And we see that in, when she changes their outfits. Whereas, out in the real world, they're still asleep. We know that out in the real world during this time frame, we know that she's about to stab Luffy, as I went over several times already in other videos. She's about to stab Luffy because it's kind of stated that anyone that is trapped within her virtual world, if she falls asleep, they should be able to come back. Their souls should return to their bodies. But if she dies while they are all there, their souls are essentially trapped there. Now, whether or not that means that they also die as well, I don't know if we ever get an explanation of that. And of course, the big problem that's coming with this is that when Uta is doing her big concert performance, not only is it, at the concert at Elysia, it's also being broadcast all over the world. Everywhere. We see it broadcast in Fuchsia Village, at the Baratier, probably at like Kokoyashi Village as well, probably like, Kaya and her friend, and the Veggie Pirates and Mary are like probably at their, at, Syrup Village, watching it as well somehow. We see it broadcast all over the world, and we see people all over the world are also falling asleep. We see it in Alabaster, we see it at Sabaody, we see it, I don't remember if we ever get a glimpse of like Dressrosa or whatever, but we see all of this stuff, all these different places where like places the Straw Hats have been, obviously, but we see them having, that they're all watching this concert and everything, and other places around the world as well are watching this concert. Even the Gorosei are watching the concert, but they have the sound off. But we see that these people are also falling asleep, because we see them just falling asleep in mass droves as they listen to Uta sing, because they're all being pulled into this virtual world. Now, the question that I have in that regard is that we see that Charlos showed up at the concert in the virtual world, and he was either probably not there to begin with, otherwise it would have been very obvious if a celestial dragon was there already, but he was probably at Marijois and ended up watching the concert, and that's how him and his bodyguards and everything ended up there. But for people that are watching this at home or at their, in their village or whatever, where do they think they are when they are in like the dream world? Do they think that they're just instantly at Uta's concert, or are they just having a dream where they are like still watching the concert, but they are like, do they still picture that they're like in the crowd at the concert at like Sabaody or something like that as they watch it on the big screen? Is that what happens? I don't know. It's never explained what happens in that regard. But because everybody that's like, because like the Straw Hats and everything that are like physically at the concert already, like them still thinking that they're on Elysia makes perfect sense. But if you're like in Fuchsia Village, like Makino and Whoop Slap and whoever else is there, like did they watch this? Not the Don, because the Don wouldn't know who Uta is, but like Makino and Whoop Slap do. Would they like watch this concert, and like if they fall asleep, would they just still be in the village and just be watching the concert and everything? Because we know that Uta kind of like hacks the snails that are there that are using to broadcast the concert. She hacks them, and they're kind of trapped in the dream world as well. The snails are, but they're still broadcasting around the world. But it's just playing Uta's songs again and again and again. It's not actually showing what is fully happening within the virtual world. So there's a bit of a dichotomy that happens there, where it's just like, okay, plot device necessary for this, but it's still a pretty useful fruit to have in that regard, because technically what you could do in that regard is, if you have this devil fruit, and like if Uta became the captain of her own crew or something like that, what Uta could literally do is they come up, if they come across a ship of pirates, it could be bad pirates or something like that, or even a ship of marines. Basically what Uta could do is literally just like have all of her crew like having, earplugs or headphones or something like that, so it like cancels out them hearing her sing. They broadcast her singing at the ship. She activates her devil fruit at the other ship, and everybody on that ship just like falls asleep. And then they're able to board the ship, capture the pirates, take any of their gold or anything like that, see if there's anything else useful on the ship. And then they just leave, and then like they just eventually wake up once Uta like falls asleep or whatever. Same thing with like if they're coming across a bunch of marines, they could just like sing, and everybody on the marine, she can sing, and they broadcast it, and then like it like makes it all the marines on the ship fall asleep, and then they can just like get past the marines. Depending on how large of an audience you have, you can broadcast, and if you have a good broadcast system and everything like that, you're able to do that. The other thing that I point out that proves that Uta has control over her devil fruit is that, or has gained more control over her devil fruit, I should say, is that in the movie, when we get the flashbacks to when they're on Elysia, when she's a kid, there with the red-haired pirates, that we have all these people shown that they come up and they ask her to sing, these different songs and everything like that. I'll get to top Musica in a second. They ask her to sing all of these different songs, and while she's singing, we don't see the people just like falling asleep or whatever. So that implies that Uta has the power to control when she activates her devil fruit or not, which makes sense. Because if she put everybody to sleep every single time she sang, I'm sure that the Red Force would have crashed at some point in time. But we have that. But the other thing is that we also see that Uta has been able to, broadcast her singing to the rest of the world and everything via the SSG, Den Mushi that she found, about 2 years ago and everything, when she starts broadcasting. We see that she is able to, send her songs out, that they have tone dials that are made that have her singing in them. And by technicality, I don't know if like a recording of her singing would still put you into the dream world or not, would put you into the Uta world or not. I would assume not, because we see that all these people around the world have been listening to Uta's songs at various points in time from the Den Mushi, and that it does not seem to have been putting them asleep and putting them into the dream world. So context there. She would be able to turn the fruit's power on and off. And then this is where we get into top Musica. The same general weaknesses of it are, of course, you can't swim, different things like that. Of course, you sink when you're in water, general basic weaknesses. The other weaknesses, of course, if you fall asleep, then, everybody else can wake up and their souls can return to their bodies. But if you die while people are in your virtual world, then, they're like trapped there, is kind of what's implied. Yeah, so that's fun. The other thing is, of course, going into top Musica. It is stated that a past user of the devil fruit at one point in time had ended up having to deal with top Musica, which implies that top Musica was once separate from the devil fruit, and that was once this giant thing that they had to deal with at some point in time, and that a previous user I don't remember if they stayed at a certain amount of time, if it was like hundreds of years ago or 1,000 years ago or whatever, but a long time ago, a user of the Uta Uta no Mi had trapped the, trapped the devil song king, demon song king, or whatever, by using the Uta Uta no Mi, and trapped that within this music. And then there's, of course, the sheet music for top musica that, when subsequently sung by someone who has the devil fruit, it summons the demon, which is what happened 12 years ago in the flashback that we get in the movie, where we see, it showing up and destroying Elysia. And then that implies that, and I'll go into much more detail about what I think about top musica and stuff like that when I go into the actual breakdown of like top musica and everything like that in a different video. But we know that top musica can drain the power, drain the stamina from the person that sang the song to awaken it. We also know that the sheet music itself kind of like sentiently found Uta when she was on the island, and that's why she sang it. She did not know what it was at the time when she sang it. And what we end up, top musica can appear and everything, and it has like 3 different movements, or like 3 different versions of how it looks as it gets stronger, and like either drains more power from its summoner and such. And eventually, top musica can't be defeated unless it's being fought from both sides within the soul world, the Uta world, and in the outside world, in the real world, unless it's being fought from both sides at the same time, and with attacks hitting the same area at the same time, which is, of course, how the Straw Hats and their allies in the Uta world, and the red-haired pirates and their allies, aka Katakuri, in the real world, end up fighting against it in the movie. And what it's kind of explained by Gordon is that, who is Uta's kind of other surrogate father besides Shanks. Well, Shanks is just like her straight up dad. Gordon is kind of her foster father. What we end up seeing with Uta, or the way that the Soul King, or the Soul King, the Devil Song King, Demon Song King, whatever you want to call it, works, is that in the virtual world, and there's the virtual world and there's the real world, and that the top music can act as a bridge between the two. Now, whether or not that was 100% the intended, or because of the fact that the top musica was sealed away by a previous user of the devil fruit, that it kind of acts as a way of, like, it manipulated the devil fruit. It changed parts of the devil fruit into making it be that this thing that, while it's connected using top musica, that souls could go from the dream world, from Uta world, back into the real world, or back into their bodies. Which is kind of something that they show in the movie, but the way that Uta fully sends their souls back to the body after top musica was defeated is she sings a song that's called The World's Continuation. Now, I don't know if this song is like, she would have to sing this song specifically to send everybody back, or because of the fact that this is just a song that she uses in order to do it. Like, could she sing New Genesis again and it would still send everybody back? Or because this song is more of a hopeful song, that's what it uses to send everybody back. But I'm not 100% sure on that. It's not quite explained, but she's able to use kind of her, running on fumes to, like, use that power to, like, send everybody back. And everybody is returned to their bodies all around the world. People wake up and everything. A lot of times they're probably just like, what the just happened? I had a very weird dream. Other cases, with the Straw Hats, they know what happened. Same thing with anybody that was, like, at the concert itself out on the island, kind of knows what happened. But we see that in the movie. It's not really... Did I go over everything that I wanted to? The way that I did want to mention this, the way that you kind of escape the musical note trapping, turn you into a song that Uta does with her power, is because you are, like, physically, like, stuck to these bars of music. It's a thing they never explain in the movie, because Brooke is, like, pinned to this as well. And Brooke, generally, if he's trapped, should be able to just, like, pop his soul out and like fly out and like just like read the sheet music that's there, read the musical notes on the bar, and then just like sing the song, play the notes or whatever, and then they should be able to be free, because that's how you get off the musical notes, is by having someone sing the note and then you can get free. Because we see that that's what happened, because like Kobe and Blue are showing up, and like Kobe like draws out the thing and like shows it to Brooke so he can sing it. But the question that I have is like, is Brooke unable to leave his body at this point in time? Is he like still physically stuck to this wall? Is that another thing that like Uta can manipulate? But the thing is Uta probably doesn't even know that Brooke has this devil fruit power. She can probably deduce by the fact that he is a talking skeleton with an afro that he probably has a devil fruit power, but she doesn't know what that is. So is he just like physically stuck and unable to actually leave his own body in order to, you know, sing the notes and like free his crew and free like Brule and Oven and their group, or what? It's not, that's never explained in the movie. As far as I can tell, we just know that Brooke is attempting to try to look up Nami's skirt at her panties, which is typical Brooke fashion, yes, but I would assume that if he could escape his body at that point in time that he would. So I'm thinking he's like pinned to the wall, like his soul is like trapped inside of his body at that point in time already. So that's just my thought on that one. For that's like the only way that that can be made sense. Although it is stated that later on in the movie, or at one point when the Gorosei are talking, it is stated that the way that Uta has used her power to ensnare 70% of the world's population, you know, generally that amount. I mean, like, probably people in Wano are not listening to this. People that are, like, necessarily in Totland may not be listening to this. Some people in Totland might be listening to this. Other places aren't listening to this. I kind of have the image, though, of, like, now that we know about Egghead Island, or, like, all the Vegapunks, like, do, like, a bunch of the Vegapunks, like, do they, like, blare Uta's music on, like, the loudspeakers in the lab, or something like that all over Egghead Island, and just, like, they're rocking out to it, or something like that? Did they do that? I want to know. I kind of want to know if, like, Uta's songs have made their, you know, made that far. Like, does Vegapunk know about Uta? Is Vegapunk an Uta fan? You know what? Yeah, Shaka strikes me as he would be a very big fan of Uta and her music, actually, in all honesty, considering the fact that that might be the case. Vegapunk might actually be a fan of Uta's music if he knew about it. Also, I just kind of like the idea of, like, Dragon and the others, like, the Revolutionary Army knowing about Uta as well, and like actually, like they really like, because Koala and Ivankov and probably Bella Betty would probably like Uta's music. In all honesty, Sabo might be okay with it. I just have this funny image of like Dragon actually being a closeted Uta fan. Not knowing at all necessarily about Uta's connection to Luffy or anything like that, but like I just have this funny image of like Dragon being a closeted Uta fan, and that he has like a little folded up Uta flag that he hides in his office. I don't know. That just sounds funny in my opinion. But no, I can definitely see some of the Revolutionary Army, particularly with the way that Uta sings for, you know, with Invincible and with New Genesis and stuff like that, that those songs would probably also resonate with the Revolutionary Army, which is, you know, that would make sense. But that's what I wanted to go over. I think I pretty much covered everything I wanted to go over with the way that Uta's Devil Fruit seems to work, in different ways that you could use it. In that regard. So yeah, some of the other ones that'll be coming up on me, New Genesis is probably going to get its own video in regards to like me kind of breaking down that song and stuff like that. Top Musica is definitely going to get its own. It may just end up being like a specific video for like each one of them. Some of them may not be as long as the other one. Top Musica is probably going to be one of the longer ones though, for like breaking down and talking about like a theory that I have with Top Musica. So that's what I have. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a nice rest of your day, and just go and listen to Uta's music because they're really good songs. Bye!